All right, good morning. If you've been paying attention to the markets, you will know that the markets took a bit of a correction over the past week or so. I want to spend some time in this video just talking about why, but more importantly, talking about some of the investment theory that you need to know to try and help you manage how you might be feeling right now. And this is going to be aimed at novice investors, maybe first time investors, because I know that if you're just starting out and you've seen the visuals of the markets being completely down across all sectors, I know what that feels like. That can be quite demoralizing. It can be quite scary, actually, because you know that you put your hard earned money into this thing, and through no fault of your own, you would have seen some losses in your investment portfolio. So I want to talk about some of the investment theory behind it so that you can kind of get a grasp of maybe how you approach this moving forward. Now, obviously on YouTube and on Instagram and across socials, you're going to have channels who are going to be talking about all of this doom and gloom. I don't want to do that because I think it's counterproductive. It's not going to give you any confidence. And I think to invest, you need confidence. And so what I am going to do is, whilst I talk about some of the theories behind how you might want to approach thinking about this to reinforce your knowledge and the confidence that you might be feeling and hopefully give you a confidence boost. Also, we really want to be really real with you in terms of, look, this is what investing is all about. And I'm sorry if nobody told you that this is what it's all about. You're going to have high periods, low periods, and you need to be able to come to terms with the balance that you're going to have to try and make in terms of how you invest to manage those two realities. And so, look, let's start off with why this is all started. So I'm going to keep this very, very high level, okay? So the reason why the markets kind of crashed over the past week or so is because if you pay attention to global economics and global kind of like situations, in Japan, they've had negative bank rates for a long time, which means that if you put money in a Japanese bank, you have to pay the bank to hold your money, negative interest rates. So what's been happening is because, well, people have money, they're like, actually, I don't want to pay you money to hold my money in the account. So what we're going to do is, because interest rates are so low, we'll borrow some money. We'll then take that money and go invest it in the S&P 500 and the Western economies, right? America, generally speaking. And recently, the Japanese central bank said, well, actually, we're going to increase our interest rates now. So that meant that people who were taking out low cost loans to go and invest in America now had more to pay back. And in order for them to be able to pay their positions back, they've had to basically cash in their investments. And because of the scale at which this was done, it's impacted the markets. That coupled with the fact that last week the Bank of England base rate was reduced to 5% from 5.25%, it was heavily expected that the Fed was going to do similar. They were going to reduce their Fed rate as well. That didn't happen because the Fed are a little bit concerned that inflation still has a little bit of a hold in the US. So it's a combination of a number of things that have happened to make what happened with the markets and the crash a reality last week. Now, what can you do about it? You can't really do anything about it. We don't have any power as investors to influence monetary policy across any of the jurisdictions that we kind of have to deal with from an investment point of view globally. We can't control what the central bank in Japan does. We can't influence what Jeremy Powell at the Fed does. We can't even influence what Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, does. So we're kind of at the mercy of these elements, these factors that we can't control. And that's really what investing is about. You're putting money into the markets. Hopefully, you've done your homework. You've covered some of the principles that I'm going to jump into in a moment. But hopefully, by investing, you've come to terms with the idea that there are lots of external factors you can't control that will give you one of two outcomes: the ability to grow your money or potentially lose some money. And during your investment cycle, both of those things are going to happen. But over the long term, you're looking for what happens and what the result is over the long term. So, i.e., did you make money over the long term or did you lose money over the long term? Now, coming to terms with the fact that markets can be down and you can lose money is very, very difficult because at the end of the day, in behavioral psychology, we know that everyone has loss aversion, which is the fear of losing money. And when you lose money, you'll see your money going down in a portfolio that you've worked really hard to acquire. The natural instinct is, I want to cash this in and protect myself from further losses. That is completely natural. And look, you may decide that is going to be the best move for you. And I'm going to talk about a scenario in a moment. But you have to come to terms with the fact that it's par for the course. Now, unfortunately, when we invest, or when most people invest, and it is human default behavior that when we invest, that sometimes we just want to protect ourselves from the downside. And coming to terms with the fact that we could make money, lose money, is something that we struggle with. Crucially, though, people will be more fearful of losing money than making money. And that's because we work hard for our cash. We don't want to lose it for reasons that we can't control. But that's the game when you invest. And so, with that being said, I want to jump into some theory, investment theory. And for those of you who don't know me, I am an ex financial advisor. I've advised clients on pensions, investments. I've worked with advisors for years talking about this kind of stuff. And I'm going to talk you through something that we would spend a lot of time trying to unearth with clients to really understand how we invest money in a way that reduces their overall risk. So I'm just going to share my screen right now and just show you or give you a flavor for some of the key considerations that I think will help you if you're kind of at your wit's end at the moment or a little bit, unsure about what's going on. So there are three key factors. The first one is, are you clear on what your goal was when you started to invest? And it might sound very kind of like high level, kind of idealistic and utopic, but it's very, very important. The reason why you're investing is a big consideration. So are you investing because you want to retire early? Are you investing because you're trying to invest money for your kids' future school fees? What are you doing it for? Now, your goal, you need specificity around it. So let's just take the example of school fees. The questions will be, how old is your child right now? How far do you have until your kid will probably need to access this money, or you would need to access this money for your child for school fees, right? And this brings in this conversation about time. These two things are intrinsically linked. You can't separate them. And the real reason why you need specificity is because you want to be able to assign a financial number to these things. How much do you need for school fees? Is it £5,000 a term, £7,000, £15,000 a term, £2,000 a term? You kind of need to know, because this will help us understand what needs to be invested and what you need to target in order to get to the goal in the first place, right? So these two things are intrinsically linked. And generally speaking, your time is going to impact, or how long you're going to be looking to invest to achieve this goal is going to impact directly the level of risk that you take when you invest. This is stuff that is missed across social media, purely because a lot of people who talk about investments don't actually know this stuff because they're not qualified with qualifications where you're trained to talk about these things and take these things into consideration. And that's why I want to share this with you, because it's very important. This is what the professionals do to ensure that when people invest, they're 100% set up for success. So this risk element is really important. And the whole point of investing is to match your choice of investment to your goals, your timeline, and your risk appetite. Now, on your risk appetite, let me just share another screen with you, because your risk appetite is dictated by the risk that you are willing and able to take. So the risk that you're willing to take is, I think I'm just good. If you score yourself out of 1 out of 10, I think I'm an 8. That's the risk that you're willing to take. The risk that you're able to take takes in consideration your personal circumstances. So do you have really good money control in terms of your budget and your financial management? Are you still laden with debt that you still need to service? Do you have an emergency fund that means that you don't necessarily have to be reliant on the money that you're investing right now if things go to crap and you need cash? These things are all very important factors to consider. And so the risk that you're able to take based on your circumstances will sometimes impact the level of risk that you actually take when you invest. But the general rule of thumb is, the more time you have on the clock, the more risk you're able to take, you can afford to take, and the less time you have on the clock, then the less risk you are able to take. I.e., if you're investing for less than 5 years, really, you shouldn't be investing. But if you do, it's low. It's going to be on the low end of the spectrum. If you're investing for 10, 15 years, for in the example of maybe saving for kids' school fees, then you can afford to take more risk. And this is really, really important when you start talking about how you match your investment risk with. One second, let me just find this script. This one, right, there we go. It's really important when you try and match your investment choice to your goals, your timeline, and your risk appetite. Now, I know that a lot of novice investors may not have necessarily have thought about it in that way, but I would encourage you to really think about it. And how you would do it is this: go back over your investment portfolio, or at least sit down and revisit why you started to invest in the first place, and really try and document how long you think that is for. And don't just make up 10 years, 12 years, 15 years because that's what you've heard on social media. Really think about it from your own personal perspective. How long do you want to invest this money for and able to meet the goal that you set in the first place? If you don't have a goal, you need to have a goal. And the reason why this is so important is because the answer to those questions will dictate exactly how you invest your money and what level of risk you have taken in the first place. Now, there may be scenarios where, like I've said, people will feel as though, you know what, I don't like it, I want to get out. And that's completely fine if you feel like that. Ideally, you don't want to be cashing in a loss in your investment, but it's important that you're comfortable with what you're doing. And so if you find like you're not really comfortable with the decisions that you've made, then maybe that is the right thing for you to do. I can't tell you what to do. That's going to be your choice. But there may be a scenario where, for example, you may have invested and on your timeline, because investing can be very, very complex in terms of the tranches in which you invest in. So, for example, for me, I've invested some money, which I know that I need eminently. So for me, I've re-looked at my portfolio over the last week or so, and I've actually taken some money and some profit out because I know that I need it right now. And this was as part of my consideration 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago when I made investments to know that this juncture in 2024, I was likely to do X. There is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with looking back over your investment strategy as you began and reviewing and rejigging that. So it's really important to take a really pragmatic view of how you've invested and how you've decided to invest. And there is nothing wrong with making the decision that you feel comfortable with. In fact, I think that is going to be most optimal. But I just wanted to share that theory with you. I know for a fact that most people will just be like, oh, it doesn't really matter. But trust me, this is what the professionals do. And my aim with this is, if one person watches this and one person finds it useful, then my job is essentially done. But this is really important stuff. And this is stuff that, as you kind of gain more confidence when you're investing, you revisit and you reconsider, because it's always going to be a moving and changing plan. Your goals may change. As time goes by, your timeline will change. Therefore, the risk that you're willing and able to take in your investment, that will also change. What you do day one is not what continues to be true or applicable or appropriate on day 3,432. It always has to be reviewed. And so please bear that in mind. I think in closing this, also don't panic. This is what the market does. It will pass. We'll have positive periods again very, very soon. So don't panic. Don't listen to the doomers and gloomers here on YouTube, because there's plenty of them and they do it literally for clickbait and for views. But please just remember why you have invested and some of the things that I've spoken about here. I think it's going to give you a lot of comfort. Hope you found it really, really interesting. If you did, please smash the like button and also consider subscribing as well, because it will just mean that other people get to see this video that may find it beneficial. Thanks so much. Catch you in the next one. Cheers.